Hello and welcome to Rustic Recipes. For my first recipe on this channel, I thought I'd show you how to make Brunswick stew. This is a dish that has its origins in the campfire stews of the Native Americans and the hearth stews of the American colonists and settlers. This recipe makes a large pot of stew, so it's a great dish to make on the weekend and have all week for lunches or quick meals. But be warned, you need a large pot for this. If you don't have a large pot, you might want to cut this recipe in half. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start with chicken. You're going to need 3 to 4 cups of chopped cooked chicken. You can use pretty much any kind of cooked chicken, so if you've got some leftovers, this would be a great place to use them. I'm going to roast up a few breasts and thighs for this. So I've put a little olive oil in the bottom of my pan and then laid out the chicken. Now I'm going to put on a little olive oil to the top and season with salt, pepper, and garlic powder. That's going into a preheated 350-degree oven for about an hour. And then we're going to let it cool down before we start working with it. While that's going, let's start the prep work on the vegetables. 2 cups of lima beans. These are some dry beans that I soaked overnight, but you can use canned or frozen if you like. Just remember that canned is going to add more salt, so be aware of that when we start adding salt to the stew later. Okay, now we want to cut up some potatoes. We want about 2 cups of diced potatoes. Any variety you like is fine. Next, we want 2 cups of kernel corn. I'm using frozen here, but fresh or canned works too. Next up, onions. We're going to chop up 2 whole onions. That should give us about 2 cups when done. Now we're going to cut up a couple of carrots. These are pretty big, so if you've got smaller carrots, you're going to want to cut up a few more. We want to get about 2 cups of diced carrots. For tomatoes, I'm using canned whole peeled tomatoes. You can use fresh tomatoes or even tomato juice. We're going to want 2 to 3 cups of chopped tomatoes, juice and all. Okay, back to the chicken. Chicken is roasted for about an hour and then cooled down. Now we're going to chop it up, and when we're done, we got about 4 cups of chicken. Now we need to brown 2 pounds of ground beef. Once that's nice and browned, drain it and set it aside. Then take 1 pound of ground pork or pork sausage and brown it also. Okay, that's all the prep work done. Now, into your large stew pot go all the ingredients. Beef, pork, chicken, potatoes, corn, beans, carrots, onions, and tomatoes. Now for the seasoning. 2 tablespoons of chili powder. You might want to use less if you used a spicy pork sausage. A tablespoon of salt, and yes, that looks like a lot, but trust me. 2 tablespoons of black pepper. A teaspoon of red pepper. And 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Then we're going to add 3 to 4 cups of chicken broth or stock. Now give it a good mix, cover, set it on a medium-high heat, and let it go. After about 15 to 20 minutes, you should get a little bit of juice coming out, and it should be easier to stir, so go back and give it a good stir. Now the longer this cooks, you'll see more and more juices coming out of your veggies. So give it a stir about every 15 to 20 minutes and taste for seasoning. When it starts bubbling vigorously, turn the heat down to a medium-low and let it simmer for several hours. I'd recommend letting it go for at least 4 hours. But if you're impatient, you can eat this after about an hour and a half of simmering, but letting it go breaks down those ingredients more and produces more and more broth. So it's been about 4.5 hours, and in my opinion, it's ready. Let's see how this looks. Serve this up with some cornbread, or as I have here, a corn pone, and I'll show you how to make those later. So there you go, thick and hearty Brunswick stew. Delicious. If you've enjoyed this recipe, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to see more rustic recipes.